That's right. Mr. Bill has been selling snow cones for 30 years. I said 30 years. It might be 120 in the shade. The coldest I ever remember was about 20 below wind chill. 20 below wind chill, and I was still out here selling snow cones. In a snowstorm, trying to sell some snow cones for 25 cents for the kids. And of course, if the kids don't have money, that's right, I'll give them something free. This is McCook's Mr. Bill. I'm here when the preachers and the teachers and the cops are all in a warm building. A lot of people think, oh, boy, I'd like to be a Mr. Bill or go out there and do that kind of thing. Well, rest assured, not every day is fun. But you're still there. And you do it for nothing. You never know. You never know when things are going to get interesting and what's going to happen on any given day. For example, the most vicious fight I ever saw in my 30 years is Mr. Bill. Yeah, I saw some fights. Stopped most of them. Mr. Bill pretty good at stopping fights. Over there at the college, that was one of the classics. Two black college kids was going to kill one of our local hoods. He might have deserved getting beat up, but he didn't deserve to die. And so I stopped that fight. And a number of fights I've stopped pretty easily. But one of the classic fights that I didn't get stopped, I couldn't get it to stop, and it was the most vicious fight I ever saw in my 30 years, was this one. And it was a girl fight, high school, junior high age girl fight. There were two sisters. They were standing off to the side after school. I parked there for 22 years. And the two girls were standing there off to the side of the candy truck, and a dishwater blonde come walking down the street. Well, as she passed them, they called her a whore. Now, yes, it is rumored that this young, attractive lady, well-built, physically well-built, not just well-built, but physically well-built, young lady did like the boys. With that in mind, though, the second she was called a whore, she dropped her books and she attacked the girl that said it. And I don't mean with slapping, I'm talking fists. And she pummeled that girl probably 8 punches to the body and face before that girl hit the ground. But her sister had come in from behind and grabbed the dishwater blonde's hair like that and literally yanked her backwards and threw her on the ground. I'd never seen anything like that. Whoa! And I'm saying free snow cones for everybody. Let's just calm down, cool down. Not a teacher in the world after school, and a few kids is still milling around, so they came to watch the fight. They weren't going to stop it either. Who would, right? Okay. And I couldn't get it stopped from inside the truck, and I didn't feel like I wanted to get out in the middle of that thing, especially on school property. With that in mind, though, and as long as that dishwater blonde kept her knife in the pocket, because I knew she carried, and as long as she didn't get serious with a blade, I wasn't going to get out there in the middle of it. So the two girls, the girl that had been knocked down, that had said called her a whore, she jumped up and she came back at her then, because the other girl was then attacking the girl that had yanked her hair backwards and threw her on the ground. She jumped up and they were going to it toe to toe, fist to fist. This girl was doing a lot better job of throwing back fists as she was receiving them from the blonde. The girl came in from behind that had been knocked down, and she started pounding on her back then with some pretty fair blows, fists to say the least. I'm kidding you not. They were hitting hard as they could, ninth graders, give or take. And she would turn and try to fight one, and then she'd try to turn and fight the other. It reminds you of almost an African, the lion trying to fight 2 hyenas at the same time, The lion could whip either one of them, but couldn't whip them both very easily. And that was the same problem that this dishwater blonde had. And they fought and they fought. I kid you not. And a vicious fight to say the least, but more of a man-type fighting, fists throwing. And once they finally backed off a little bit and calmed down enough that they backed off and they grabbed their books, and the blonde let them leave. But they were still cursing like, it'd make a sailor blush, the language both sides were using. And the dishwater blonde was still, oh, I suppose 15 feet from the candy truck, and so I said, come here. Now I handed her some paper towels because all were bleeding. All were bleeding. Noses and clothes were torn. And so I handed her out some paper towels. And to give you an example of just the viciousness of that, those girls, as they backed off, there was hair in their hands from yanking on that dishwater blonde, and she was bleeding from the head from some of her hair literally being pulled out. Again, the most vicious fight I ever saw in my 30 years. And unfortunately, I couldn't get that one stopped. But I have stopped an awful lot of fights in my time. It's McCook's Mr. Bill.